Hello and welcome to Into the Word. I'm Alex. There is always $1 million question for everyone. Where is your heart? In other words, who or what do you love the most? Now, I know many people have different answers, not all answer the same. I know of one person who loves his car. He doesn't go anywhere without it. Even if it's just to go nearby down the road, he'll always take it. And he polishes his car like practically every day. I've also seen when I go to work, I happened to go one time around 4 o'clock in the morning for something else, not for work. And I saw two ladies, I think Indonesians or Filipinos, whichever, and they were polishing cars at 4 something in the morning. Can you imagine? These people treat their cars like their girlfriends. It's always spick and span, polished, tip-top condition. And that is the love of their life. Can you imagine? Of course, with the cars that they have, it's probably a beautiful looking car, not only polished but also stylo milo, up-to-date version or whatever. And girls will always, of course, want to have a ride in that car. There are people also who are workaholics. They just love work. They can't be without working. They can't keep still, in other words. So they always like to do something. And when it comes to work, they don't have a limit on it. They don't work 9 to 5. They can work to 9 to 9 or so, even to the next day or so. Some are really into it that it doesn't bother them. They don't mind it also. Even if it affects their health, it doesn't matter. They just love what they're doing. There are people, of course, who love their girlfriends a lot. And for those who are married, their wives or their husbands. And the people that they love, their husbands or wives, sometimes if they have children, they may even love their children more than their spouses. Most of the time, or sometimes it comes to that, And of course, there is the other thing, which is some people just love to have a lot of money. So they like to work hard or just find ways and means to get a lot of money. A lot of people love a lot of different things. Now, as a Catholic, as a Christian, the first thing that we ask, okay, who or what do you love the most? Okay, the first thing that comes out from us will always be, we love God, we love Jesus. But the question is, what is what you're saying coming from here and not from down here? Anybody will see that. Some of the people answer just because they avoid embarrassment. They say, I love Jesus, or I love God. But the question that actually need to be asked is, who is number one in your life? Who is number one? Or maybe you could put it this way, who's your first love? By that answer, you will know what your future holds. I ask you, brothers and sisters, to now as you're listening, to ask that question to yourself. Lord, ask the Lord to help you, to show you who or what you have been putting first in your life. Okay, so if there's number 1 position, number 2 position, number 3, maybe 4, 5, whatever, but who's the number 1? Who is actually number 1? Ask the Lord. And then you will be surprised when the Lord reveals to you who or what is in that first position. You'll be surprised. When you have time to sit and think, the Lord will show you many things that you've been doing, and you find out that, actually that is actually number 1. God has slipped to number 2, or maybe, hopefully worse, not number 3 or 4. So, my dear brothers and sisters, just think about it. Who actually, or what actually is number 1, comes number 1 in my life, followed by everything else. I have a friend who was working in a hotel. I may have told the story beforehand, but please bear with me. And he was working in La Meridian, okay? And he was a supervisor, topmost position, supervisor of the hotel. And when he went for a school of evangelization, he was so on fire for the Lord. He just left his job, and I'm sure that he would have asked the Lord, first of all, without simply leaving the job. And he went full-time, became a full-time missionary. Yes, he has wife and he has kids also, now grown-up kids. But still till today, he is a missionary. That is, I think about 20 years, 20 plus years, I won't be surprised. Can you imagine that? Leaving everything, putting everything aside, just putting God first and foremost before everything else. To me, that's truly amazing. But he can actually do something like that, despite even still having wife and children. And somehow or other, with his wife and kids, the Lord has provided for him. And he's got a lot of testimony to give about how the Lord helped his children, college and everything else. So my dear brothers and sisters, come back to the question. Who is your number 1 in your life? Or in other words, plain language, where is your heart right now? Is it your work? Is it your possessions? Is it your spouse? Is it maybe your children? Maybe your boyfriend or your girlfriend? Or maybe it's just your work? Or maybe it's just anything that you do just to get money because you really like to have a lot of it. As Catholics or Christians, we have to ask this question, but we have to ask the Lord to help us get a truthful answer from ourselves. Then and then only we know what is going to happen, because the number 1 position will tell you what lies in your future. What number 1 is, whether it's a person or thing, that's where, how far you're going to go in your life, you will know. Ask the Lord to reveal to you. And if it is not God, if number 1 is not God, that you can say sincerely, not from the mouth, not from the mind, but really deep down into your heart, if you can really say that, alright, then all will be well. Because if God is number 1 in your life, He will walk with you. He will make everything smooth. He will do this. Because why? Because He loves you. And He will be with you through thick and thin. Just like the missionary I told you. Brothers and sisters, come closer to the Lord. Ask the Lord. And if it's not number 1, ask the Lord, how do I make you number 1 in my life? Show me the way. And how do I resist everything else to be number 3 or number 2 or number 3, whichever. But how do I put you number 1? Okay? I pray to the Lord that you really will get a truthful answer from the Lord. The Lord will show you, and then with that, you will make up your mind to put God first above all things. Above all things. And what will happen in the end is God will put you above everything else in your life. Amen.